Hello! While raising money for her mother's treatment, Robin gets involved in selling illegal substances and is tipped by her cousin Newt to distribute mysterious capsules called Power. The substance gives its consumers unique abilities. For example, Robin's friend, a policeman named Frank, becomes bulletproof. However, everything turns out to be more complicated than it seems at first sight. The girl discovers that Power is a large-scale experiment, and its consumers are guinea pigs. A cargo ship named Genesis is docked at the port of New Orleans. The crew hands over the cargo and containers to the carriers, and the trucks and trailers move out to the designated rendezvous point. At the deserted parking lot, an enterprise man named Biggie offers the assembled dealers a unique product: previously unknown capsules called Power, free of charge. Later, a girl named Robin, also known as Bird, the dealer, opens the stash. She is mesmerized by the pills when she hears an impatient call from the outside. Wearing a balaclava, the girl moves out to the call and catches up with two slackers on bicycles. The girl tells the customers that Power's effect is unpredictable and lasts only 5 minutes. She demands $500 for one capsule. Bird does not notice how, during the negotiations, an accomplice of the pair appears from behind. He attacks her, and having snatched the backpack, the group is about to steal the cherished capsules when a policeman on a motorcycle intervenes. At gunpoint, one of the guys named Tommy decides to take the capsule. However, Frank, a seasoned policeman, skillfully manipulates his fears and prevents the attempt.
So the question is, what's your power? Might be good, might be bad, nobody knows.
After laying down his gun, the policeman lets the little crooks go and handcuffs Bird. Once the guys on the bikes are out of sight, Frank amicably helps Robin up and removes the cuffs. The friends wander around the amusement park at night, discussing Power. Frank is a policeman and covers up Robin's drug peddling, since he himself is hooked on the pills. He buys another one, giving her $500, and in honor of Bird's last birthday, Frank gives her a motorcycle, happily observing the girl's delight. After riding on the bike all night, Robin returns home and sneaks into her room unnoticed. She takes out a key and opens her improvised safe, where she puts the criminal money she earned during the night. At this time, a man nicknamed Art is looking for a power supplier and heads to a guy named Newt. His search leads him to a ghetto on the outskirts of town. Upon finding the right door, Art is met by the barrel of a gun held by a frail boy. Tricking him into stepping inside, the man makes his way inside and sees an open briefcase full of capsules. After arming himself and inspecting the place, he also finds the dealer in one of the rooms, and holding him at gunpoint, demands that he turn over the supplier. But the burnt-faced boy is not going to talk. He quickly hides in the storeroom, where he swallows one of the capsules. It ignites a fire inside of him, and Newt bursts out to meet the intruder, blazing like a torch, and even a point-blank shot cannot stop him. Art flees and escapes his pursuer through the balconies, but the flaming guy, who took 3 more capsules along the way, is unstoppable and keeps on his trail. Having ambushed him in the bathroom, the man manages to seize and hold his adversary in the water. The guy gives up the name of Biggie's supplier in agony, and just moments later, Power overdose tears him to pieces from the inside. A deafening explosion triggers Art's memories. Robin prepares for school in the morning, promising her ailing mother Irene to bring diabetic drugs and canned soup in the evening. Together, they watch a newscast about a fire in the ghetto, where Robin's cousin Newt lives. The worried woman asks her daughter to contact the cousin and find out if he's okay. Meanwhile, Art treats his burns and looks through the messages on the dealer's phone, which he managed to grab from the apartment. He sees a new message from Robin. Her typing on the phone draws the attention of the teacher, who gives the girl a choice: give her the phone or go to the principal's office. Grabbing her bag and textbook, rebellious Robin silently walks out of the classroom. Policeman Frank and his partner arrive downtown on an emergency call about an armed bank robbery. The only eyewitnesses report that the perpetrator attacked like a ghost. Even though there are hostages inside, the police are not allowed to storm the building, as the case is passed on to higher authorities. Not going to put up with it, Frank makes his way to the back door, swallows a power capsule, and enters the building. Looking around the room, he fails to notice a chameleon man by the wall with 2 yellow bags full of money. By heading straight for the hostages, the policeman gives the robber the opportunity to attack him from behind. Frank quickly comes to his senses and rushes in pursuit of the criminal, who changes his skin color as he goes, instantly blending with surroundings. But his bags give him away, and the cop keeps up. The fugitive, however, manages to break away on a bike and then hop onto a tram, where he decides to inspect his loot, not expecting to find a firecracker with colored powder in it. A pink cloud gives away the hiding place of the robber, and the driver stops the tram at the request of the policeman. Along with the crowd of passengers, the culprit gets out, trying to immediately flee to a nearby cafe. After rushing through the place, Frank manages to get a hold of his pursuer, and the pair burst through the glass of the back door together. Frank loses his gun on the pavement, which immediately lands in the hands of the criminal, who pulls the trigger, aiming for the policeman's temple. However, the bullet crumples on Frank's armored skull and falls to the ground. After recovering from the shock, he grabs the criminal and brutally beats him in front of the other cops. Using the dealer's phone, Art makes an appointment for Robin at the church's chicken joint. During Frank's medical examination, Captain Crane shows up and forces his subordinate to surrender his badge and weapon for using power on duty. Indignant Frank informs the captain that he intends to work on the case without higher authority supervision. Realizing that he cannot be stopped, Crane discreetly gives Frank a photo of a man who, according to his information, is the supplier in New Orleans.
I'm told he's the source of power. We shut him down, we get our city back.
Art spends the whole day in the joint waiting for the girl, who shows up in the evening looking for Newt. On the street, he slashes her tire to prevent her from fleeing on the motorcycle, and after waiting for Robin to go into an isolated place, attacks her, puts her in the trunk of a pickup truck, and takes her to the outskirts of town. After calming down the shrieking captive, Art places her in the front seat, shows her a photo of an unknown man, and explains that he is looking for the supplier of the capsules. The frightened Robin says she doesn't know who the person is in the photo, denying anything to do with power and her dead cousin too. In the meantime, Biggie and his accomplice Gardner meet a person arriving in a charter flight at the airport. This woman aspires to become the most powerful person in South America, and to achieve this, she is going to buy a batch of power from Biggie, which they are testing in New Orleans. Art, accompanied by Robin, sets out to find the supplier. Cowering in her seat with fear, the girl sends Frank a message asking for help. And then, following the kidnapper's instructions, she calls the dealer's emergency number. The voice instructs her to go to the Hong Kong food market. On the spot, contrary to Robin's expectations, Art decides to send her to the meeting, ignoring the endless tears, and follows her, pretending to be a customer. However, he gets distracted at the sauce rack, and after turning away for a second, Art loses sight of the girl. In the meantime, Robin is escorted to the back room where she tells the stranger that a man named Art, who is looking for a power supplier, brought her here. The man takes a capsule and goes out to meet the uninvited guest. The man, though, is already waiting for him outside the door and holding scissors to his throat, demands information about where to find Biggie. The bandit commands the driver to start the engine and drive off with the trailer, where Robin is locked in. She hears a scuffle and shots fired outside. The noise gradually subsides. Then someone breaks into her hiding place. The wounded Art shows up at the door. After making sure she's okay, Art breaks down another door, behind which they find a surveillance station. The man explains that power is an experiment, and that those who use the capsules are lab rats. The data is collected by the same Biggie to demonstrate the results to the buyer of a large batch of the substance. Before passing out from blood loss, Art shows Robin the point on the map where he must go next. But Robin tries to escape, and trying to find a way out, returns to the supermarket, where the bandits catch up with her. She is rescued by Art, who can barely stand on his feet, but still takes out his foe. Robin takes him to her mother's veterinary clinic and expertly stitches up the torn shoulder. Frank, meanwhile, arrives at Robin's house, still looking for her. Through the blinds, he sees Irene being interrogated by two armed men who are also on the search for the girl. After entering the house through the bathroom window, Frank emerges into the living room in a single towel, pretending to be the woman's lover. The provocation works, and the two men in black suits hastily get away. Taking scotch tape and Irene's phone, Frank catches up to the unknown men's van and tapes the cell phone to the back of the door as a beacon. Art and Robin find common ground. The girl tells him that she has never tried power, that her mother is diabetic and needs money for treatment, so she has no time to both study and earn an honest living. Forced to peddle power now, she actually dreams of becoming a famous rapper. Art mocks Robin and makes her recite a couple of verses. The girl is embarrassed, but agrees and spits flawless lyrics to her astonished mate on the spot. Art appreciates her work.
Ooh, you smoke that. All right, you're good, damn good.
Frank, tracing Irene's phone, follows the van of an unknown pair in black suits. Art, on the other hand, finally comes to his senses and plans to continue his search for the man in the photo. Robin asks to go with him. In the car, She sees a photo of a young girl and learns that it is Art's daughter, Tracy. The man tells her that during his time in the army, he and the other soldiers were experimented on, gathered in a room and exposed to radiation in an attempt to change their genes and create superheroes. He is also the man who is able to escape the experiment. A couple of years later, Tracy was born. She had phenomenal health from her very childhood. It was clear that her abilities were inherited, and Tracy was kidnapped to conduct experiments on her. Arriving at the site, Art leaves Robin outside. The man arrives at the presentation of power, where Biggie fascinatingly tells the woman in white what animal abilities are transmitted to the users through the capsules. And with her funding, he can create a power whose effects will last for the rest of one's life. In the meantime, the pursuit of the van leads Frank to the same place, where he is surprised to meet Robin in the parking lot. Frank shows his friend a photo of Art, insisting that he is a supplier of power.
And he's dangerous and I need to bring him in. Either way, you should tell me where he is.
Biggie begins the presentation. He solemnly locks the pretty girl in a container with a glass of champagne and a capsule. He demonstrates a rare power on the subject, the ability to thermoregulate. Under the red scorching lights, the subject's body steams cold, and her touches freeze the transparent armored glass. At this time, Art pretends to be a waiter, serves drinks to Biggie, who immediately recognizes the former subject. Art is about to take the villain out quietly at gunpoint, but the barmaid makes a fuss after finding one of the guests dead. Everyone present instantly pulls out their guns. Biggie tries to calm the angry mob. When one of them swallows a capsule, in front of the audience, he is suddenly torn to pieces, after which a wild firefight ensues. In the meantime, the girl in the container destabilizes and freezes from the inside out until she turns into an ice statue begging for help. Exhausted Art, having dealt with Biggie's entourage, interrogates the man and, threatening him with death, demands to know where to find the man in the photo. To get the answers out of the uncooperative criminal, Art shoots his fingers off, and in a state of shock, the man gives up the supplier's base, the Genesis ship. At this time, an armed Frank appears. He orders Art to drop his gun and comes up behind him to handcuff him, but the nimble soldier snatches his gun away in one swift move. While the pair are sorting things out, Biggie swallows the capsule of power. Under the influence of the substance, the cells in his body begin to divide rapidly, and he transforms into a monster in front of the men. Fleeing from the enemy, Art twists the valves of nearby gas cylinders, and with a precise shot, roasts the monster alive. Once safe, Frank cuffs Art's wrists and places him in a police car. Robin tries to reason with the soldier and asks him not to surrender, but he indifferently tells her to go home. Frank, on the other hand, immediately drives off to the station and notifies Captain Crane about it. Abandoned by her former partners, Robin is about to head back home, but suddenly sees the thug Art was looking for in front of her and follows the criminal. On the way to the station, Art tries to convince Frank that they are both in danger of being killed, since the captain has long been bribed by the suppliers of power, who have set up a deadly experiment in New Orleans under the protection of the authorities. In confirmation of his words, the policeman receives a message from Crane ordering him to report to his location and stay there. The men agree to split up, and the task force arrives only to find Art alone in the police car. Her surveillance leads Robin to the port, where Genesis is anchored. Art, handcuffed, is brought to the pier, watching. She doesn't notice Frank creeping up behind her. The fearless girl refuses to go back to safety, so the friends agree to work together. Leaving Robin in an ambush and having taken a power capsule, Frank confidently walks to the gate and taunts the guard, demanding to be let into the area. In response, the offended man shoots him at point-blank range. After playing dead for a while and putting the guard's vigilance to sleep, Frank gets up and disarms the soldiers. Seizing the moment, Robin sneaks onto the premises after her friend. On Genesis, Gardner orders his accomplices to take genetic materials from captured Art and dispose of the man. Frank and Robin sneak into the ship's control station, where they see footage from video cameras placed on the ship's grounds broadcasted on the screens. Armed, the policeman sets out to rescue Art, leaving his friend to keep watch at the command post. The big guy Wallace hears the alarms and sets out to find what's wrong. A frightened Robin realizes he's heading towards her. The girl tries to slow him down by blocking the transition hatches while instructing Frank on how to get into the compartment where Art is being kept. Turning on the extra surveillance cameras, Robin discovers Tracy's room. By this time, the tough Wallace is already knocking down the door to the control room, so Robin escapes through the emergency hatch, smashing the dashboard with an axe before leaving. With the help of the ship's map, the girl finds Tracy and leads her onto the deck. In the meantime, Frank and Art manage to take out Wallace, and the partners are ready to get out. The team meets on the bow of the ship, where the long-awaited reunion of father and daughter takes place. But as they make their way to the lifeboats and fight Gardner's men along the way, the team loses Robin, who gets captured by the enemy. Art orders Frank and Tracy to stay inside, while he himself, grabbing a capsule, comes out of hiding and is immediately aimed at by the enemy. Unarmed Art gives Gardner one last chance and asks to let Robin go. The unyielding villainess does not agree, so the man swallows the capsule. The space around him instantly ignites, burning his enemies to ashes. Art skillfully manipulates the flow of red-hot air, incinerating all but Robin. Having used power to its limits, the man collapses without any signs of life. But Tracy, who appears afterwards, brings her father back to life with her healing powers. The next morning, Art and Tracy bid their friends farewell. The man gives Robin the keys to his truck and asks to look in the trunk. There, the girl finds a bag of money, which is more than enough to pay for Irene's medical treatment and the promised can of soup. As always, you'll find the movie title in the description of the video. Let us know in the comments. Would you risk trying power on yourself, given the terrible consequences that might ensue? And if yes, which ability do you think you'd get? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next awesome retelling.